it's a mistake. Because everyone's just lined up here.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's a mistake.
What do they know? What do they know? Exactly. What do they know? Hey, we got a fan. Look at that.
We got one fan. Whoa. So what is it like wings tonight, right? Tell me about these wings. I mean, I keep hearing about the wings, but I've never seen a single wing here.
Let's not talk about it. They're too cheap today. We don't advertise it.
But this is the buck for $6, right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, try 6 for 1. What do you think pays for all this fancy equipment?
I don't know.
It's the wings.
Just officially purchased.
Wing sales.
We're going to set up a studio at my house where Alan Setcher's studio was.
Yep.
Same room. Yep.
What, you were in Alan's house?
Oh, yeah. Bought that like a year and a half ago.
He's in town, isn't he?
I heard he's coming in July. Yeah. Is he now?
I heard he was around here right now. Yeah.
He said he wants to come, when he comes back, he wants to check out the house, see what we've done. He's going to have a heart attack because we put a couch in there that filled up the whole living room. And he's like, what are you measuring for? A couch? He goes, you don't want a couch that big in here. I'm like, I do. 3 dogs. I'm big. I mean, Amy don't need to be that close to each other, you know?
Not all the time.
We're good? All right. All right, welcome to the Beer Buds and the Big Sky Podcast. I want to thank everybody for coming here. I think all these 7 people are here, all for us, probably.
Yeah.
To this week, we got Ryan Hunter running for Kalispell mayor of Kalispell.
Counselor Ryan.
Counselor Ryan.
Yes, counselor.
Thanks for having me.
You're a counselor. No, okay, I would like to address that real quick on social media. I got a little backlash for not addressing Judge Amy Eddy as a judge. But I think liberals got to just kind of step back a little bit. Don't be so sensitive. I think this is what's costing them elections. I'm not an educated person, believe it or not.
He is not.
I'm not. So I apologize, but just, imagine maybe I met her before the show or their husband and got very friendly with them and thought we were on a first-name basis.
It's a different judge that called you out, too, wasn't it?
I guess so. Yes, it was. Right,
well,
Mike?
yeah.
You said that? Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have Judge Kaufman on the show, too.
And I better
She's a Wisconsin law
probably
grad.
call her...
She's a friend. She's a great person.
She went to Wisconsin law. You guys could bond.
Apparently, she's a little too sensitive. If she gets into my circle, she'll lose that real quick.
She'll be
so.
thrilled to hear that.
Thank you for that one, counselor. I'll try to address people with their titles. Anyway, speaking of rants, I have a question, and I've been thinking about quite a bit about this.
Oh boy.
How
You just said you weren't educated.
Okay, well, that's why I had to think a long time about this. I don't understand how rap artists have escaped the death grip of the woke liberal mob from being canceled with lyrics like "I stick my 9 in my bitch's pussy," things like this, and this is in all these songs, thousands of songs, and they're not canceled. I find that in today's day and age where everybody's so sensitive, everybody's getting canceled. A Christmas song got fucking canceled, like right?
Which one?
I don't know that. Remember, like 2 years ago, I think it was Mariah Carey's song or something.
Oh, no.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever. A lot of things are getting canceled. But for some reason, black and white rap artists, they got to pass.
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. That's what I chalk it up to.
I remember when I was a kid, people were complaining about NWA lyrics.
Oh, yes.
Eminem.
Yep.
The Christian right was really against that. But I think now they're in this hard place that, we hate this woke shit. We hate this canceling stuff. So everything goes now. We used to hate NWA. We used to hate Run DMC. We'd hate all these people. But now it seems as if, like now everybody's afraid to cancel anybody. I don't understand it.
Well, they're like beeping All in the Family, Archie Bunker. They beep him.
Right, they do. They actually edit that shit. And, I mean, that was real funny stuff. And apparently, obviously, the woke crowd isn't going to like that.
They do. That's why I have boxes and boxes of DVDs still in my garage. And my wife's like, we got to get rid of these things. And I say no, because you have companies that buy up all these old great movies like The French Connection, and then they censor them.
Blazing Saddles.
The things that, were... hilarious at the time, still funny to me, but maybe
very
not
funny.
Appropriate now.
I think it's very funny. I don't think talking about sticking a gun in somebody's private parts is very funny, but it's apparently very popular, and...
well, I would say to that, look, nobody loves a boycott and cancel culture more than the modern American right. I mean, how many things have they tried to boycott? Bud
NFL.
Light, Target, NFL.
Gay people.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
Well, they're actually effective at it.
Yeah,
rainbows,
right.
and they're effective.
The leb doesn't know how to boycott.
They close ranks quick.
You're right. I mean, how many states passed legislation to ban fucking rainbow flags?
Yeah.
What is that? I mean, we did that here, right? Montana did it.
I think so.
Yeah, we
but
did.
The
We
city
did.
of Missoula, I think, had a
He
workaround.
adopted their city flag, the rainbow flag.
Exactly.
So you can't do that, which, yeah, kudos to them. Oh, I bet there's some people rolling coal around that town pissed off.
Yeah, they're not very happy
Pissed
about
off, man. MAGA angry again. And it's going to keep going that way. I think the pushback, it's like, okay, here we go. I know Mike and Ryan haven't heard about this, but Counselor Ryan has. Hetero Awesomeness Fest in Boise, Idaho.
Oh, yeah.
An event that costs $85,000 to put on.
Say it slower.
Hetero Awesomeness Fest. That's what it is. And it was downtown Boise where the week before they had their Pride Festival. 5,000 people showed up.
Okay.
At Hetero Awesomeness Fest, about maybe 50 people showed up. Yeah. It was a shit show, a big shit show. And to me, it's saying this is a guy with money. He owns a big bar outside of Boise somewhere, and he's this kind of guy that probably is like, I'm going to, you know what? How come, straight white men don't have their own month or festival? Let's do it. Well, it turns out the reason they don't is because nobody gives a fuck about white straight people.
Well, if they played rap music, people would have been there.
They probably should have. Well, what they did do is, I guess an artist came up and saying a trans woman and a gay guy say they got into the bill for the music for the entertainment, fucking with them. So they go sing about trans people, and like the guy that was running it catches on. He's like, "What the fuck?" And he goes up and tries to grab the mic, and a guy from this crowd, one of the 50 people there, comes and punches the guy. Because he thought he was fucking with the musicians.
Well, I mean, what is a
What a
hetero
shit show.
festival? What does it even look like? Is there like a Mayo?
There was a bouncy house.
Is there a Mayo tasting station?
I'm sure there was
music played at
some
a
Christian
reasonable
nationalist
volume?
flags, It was not much.
You had to do like keg stands and that
Okay,
kind of
I can get
stuff.
down on that. Yeah, all right.
I mean, and this is something where it's like, it's just as bad, if not worse, than the wokeness on the left, in my opinion. And you got these guys that are so stubborn and so proud of being white and straight, and there's so many wrong things of being gay. It's like, live and let live. How are we ever going to get to that point of that?
I thought we were there. I really did a couple years ago.
With Obama?
I mean, I don't know. I thought we were there years ago, and then it seemed to really come storming back. This whole like legislating the bedroom and
Yes, it has come back. It has, and I've said it a lot that it was 20 years ago or so where we were kind of like, in Hillary Clinton's face and the left for being in our bedroom and telling us our business, and it's
Right.
kind of switched to the right now doing this.
Yeah, no, it's all on purpose too. I mean, it's just because it's political votes is what they're
Exactly.
doing.
It's votes.
just another soldier in the culture war.
What's crazy to me is if, this many people in America apparently hate gay people and LGBTQ and all this, and they're using this politically as a vote to stir it up and get their base riled up and get them to vote because the gay people are taking over, Less than 1%, I think, are trans, but they're still taking over. It's a big topic. But then you see Hetero Awesomeness Fest, nobody comes. But they vote. They're not going to show up in public and support something like
do vote.
goofy
Well,
like
they
that.
were doing it in the wrong state. I mean, you got to do this stuff in the swing states. You were talking about 233,000
You're
votes
right.
is what we're talking about.
You're right. They should have this festival in Pennsylvania for sure. I mean, it's a weird age, and yeah, I kind of got the feeling we were over it too. I suppose when Biden won last time, everything just calmed and chilled out, though. It did. Whether you like him or hate him, I think society kind of just chilled out because Trump was gone, the fire starter was gone, the shit starter, he's gone.
Yeah. When I say I thought we were over it, I remember being in college and a movie like Brokeback Mountain came out, and it was
that's
a
gay.
huge deal. Gay cowboys,
Right,
and,
kissing each other.
Everyone was up in arms, and I feel like those movies come out all the time now, and no one even bats an eye. 'Cause
Dude, everything on Netflix has like a gay teenager.
Sure.
Every
And it's like,
fucking show now. And
I just don't know if people really care.
I don't think so. Well, they do, because it is something people vote on. Like I said, people aren't going to go out and advertise that they're, against gay people and they're, bigoted and this and that, but they'll vote that way, and it's evident.
They'll vote that way for a while, but these guys are going to get too far out in front of it, because society's not there with them.
No, I don't think it is, and, the midterms are going to show us a lot, I think, like Ryan with your race in Calispell, you've got three people, right? And I think, I think you're well known. I think all three of you are probably well known. Sid's pretty well known in the conspiracy era. No, I'm just kidding. I like Sid a lot. I think he's really pretty fucking funny dude.
He is a true original. Like, I'll
He
give him
is.
that. He's a very original guy. He's
there's-
principled and
There's
Oh, yeah,
no
even
other.
Trump
right.
couldn't cut a deal with him.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
That's right. That's right.
What more
They
can
flew
you
him
ask?
down in Bozeman.
Yeah, what more can you ask?
So why are you running, Ryan? I know you. How long you been on council?
Just over 5 years, almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years.
Yeah.
And so what made you say I want to be mayor?
You know, Mark Johnson, the current mayor,
Yeah.
is not running again. So
Yeah.
he's been on there for something like a dozen years.
Yeah.
And I saw this opportunity. I've been on the council for 5 or 6 years. I feel like I've tried to provide that leadership on council, offering
Yeah.
a lot of new ideas and try and push a different direction with the city. And here's an opportunity to actually step into the leadership role of the council, the mayor's position. The mayor's position doesn't have a whole lot of extra power that comes with it
Right.
in the type of city government that we have.
Do you break ties in votes like Whitefish?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 9-member council, so
You're like a
anybody
vice
can break
president.
the tie.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah, what does the mayor do on a day-to-day basis?
I think the mayor's the guy you call when you need your potholes
Yeah.
fixed
Yeah,
and the water's not.
probably.
I know what
Yeah,
our
I mean,
mayor
you
does
call
here.
the mayor.
I know what our mayor does here, and that's not a goddamn thing.
God damn it, Mofeld.
No, I'm just kidding. We love you, John.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
but
I mean,
deputy
it's the
mayor.
more it's the visible position for the city, right? It's the ceremonial position. It's the person that if the governor wants to get a hold of
Right.
somebody
Right.
in Calispell, they call the mayor or whatever.
They
But
hire-
also they chair the meetings.
Okay.
The mayor chairs the meetings.
Because you have a city manager, right?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
city manager. So the city manager, runs the city, implements the policy that the council adopts, right?
Right.
Council is almost like the Congress,
And that's-
adopting the laws, the policies, and then the city manager is almost like the executive branch, the implementation arm of the policy.
The way I remember it is Rob Lowe from Parks and Recs. He was the city manager, right?
I haven't seen that show.
I'm pretty
so I
sure
don't
he
I have
know.
was.
not seen that
That's
show.
how I think of it.
You watch a
okay,
lot of
that
TV
was his
shit, don't you?
job.
Wow.
He wasn't the mayor. No, I'm pretty sure he was the city
I
manager.
think he's the city manager. I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Yeah,
I got to see that show. Rob Lowe's awesome.
it's very funny.
He's funny. He's very
Oh, yeah.
funny.
Great show.
I think about that more than you'd think when I read articles and it's like city, and I'm like, okay, Rob Lowe.
Well, he's pretty hot. He is
He
pretty
is
hot.
very good
Yeah,
looking.
very
He's one of
good
those
looking
guys
guy.
that doesn't age.
Nice hair. No, I know he's like me.
And we're gonna have a new city manager at Calispell here in a
Oh,
few
really?
months. Yeah,
Okay.
Doug Russell is resigning after a couple months, end of August. He's
And I'm
taking a
assuming
new
the
job.
council makes that decision. They vote on who the city. I'm assuming you get candidates. They fill out a resume. They send it in, and you guys talk amongst yourself on who to hire.
Yeah, we'll do a search and take.
So the
it
guy you
out.
wanted didn't get it for sure.
What's that?
The person you wanted didn't get it. I'm assuming.
Well, we haven't hired yet. So
Oh, okay.
That's,
All right.
that's to be determined.
Oh,
He
all right.
recommended the guy that just was elected mayor of New York City, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. So okay, this is crazy. So there was a guy on one of the social medias, and he says, "Listen, I don't know what you Democrats need to do, but you got to wake the f up." He goes, "This guy
Well,
just
that's
won."
not wrong.
No, it's not at all.
Not wrong, I
He said
agree.
this guy that just won in New York is a democratic socialist, if not communist, and he just won. And I think it's because the open primary is what I figure what made it.
Right.
How he did win.
And who he's running against too. I mean, that
Cuomo.
matters.
I mean, come on. That's the thing. Somehow you got to get rid of the establishment.
Well,
you
and
know,
it's very funny, and I found this out last night. I did not know this until I was looking at the results that Eric Adams was running for re-election.
Oh, he
It's
was?
The fucking nerve of this guy.
Well, that's who the general is. It's going to be.
he ran for re-election. And
Just
how many
to
votes did he
Stay
get?
out of
Oh
prison.
yeah, it was like I just thought he got pardoned. He's so corrupt that he was like, all
So
right, I'm going to
corrupt.
sit this one out. And then there he is last night with like 9% of the vote. It was like,
Oh,
I wish
that's awful.
I had the confidence of this.
Okay.
So
guy.
he's running as an independent in the general.
Yeah.
How did he? Why would he get pardoned? Because he was going to work with Trump on
Exactly.
immigration.
Yeah,
Is he? I mean,
I think so.
Can you trust? You can't trust either of
They
these guys.
drug him onto every Fox News show and said,
Oh yeah.
And it was the immigration czar. He was sitting next to him, and he said, "He's going to work with the president, aren't you, Eric?" And he was like, "Oh, I am. Yeah, I am."
Oh boy.
But
as long
anyway,
as he keeps
it's
me
kind
out
of a funny little.
he keeps me out of jail.
Had no idea he was running for re-election until I saw it last night, and I was like, "Oh, the brass balls on Eric."
I think it's going to be a really interesting general. I mean, the primary aside, the primary
Yeah.
voters tend to be more educated. You look at who pulled the votes, and they are more
Yeah.
educated, higher income kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And so the general, I think, is going to be pretty interesting.
Well, you're going to see. It's but a lot of. I mean, everybody's having their local elections. this year, and we'll see. There's a lot of change out there.
Well,
right
and like
now.
you said, this guy, he's labeled as a communist or a socialist, and then I looked at his policies on his page, and it was like he wants to build 200,000 affordable housing units. He wants to have more buses in New York City.
Pure evil.
More efficient public transportation.
Horrible
He wants
idea.
to provide free child care.
Stupid.
He wants to dip his toes into rent freezing, and it was like,
Oh my God.
It doesn't seem that radical.
It certainly has
sounds
the venture
Norwegian.
people worked up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
They're
yeah,
losing their
man.
stuff.
But it is very interesting. Like we said, the Democrats need to wake the fuck up because now the line from the establishment Democrats are, well, the mass turnout of the youth in New York City, it's an existential threat to the party is what it is.
Oh, God.
So it's like, do you want youth turnout or not? Like there seems to be a blueprint for it.
This is what primaries are all about.
Yep.
Let the
They
people
want to
decide.
spend $25 million and find their own Joe Rogan, so they're obviously interested in the youth, but only if it's their way.
Only if it supports Andrew Cuomo?
I don't know,
I mean,
dude.
how many young people could you get to vote for Cuomo? Really?
None.
4 or 5, maybe?
Or 5?
I mean,
I mean, Paris wouldn't vote for him.
I can't tell you how many young people would vote for anybody that you. I mean, Gavin Newsom's the only guy I can think of.
but it'll be an interesting experiment because, New York City has a larger population than 38 states.
Yeah, I know. One thing I think the left has to stop saying that Gavin Newsom presides over the 5th biggest economy in the world. The right doesn't give a fuck about that.
No, they
it's
don't care.
It's nothing, and they keep hammering that. And I see that on the left. For some reason, on the left, it doesn't work when they hammer these issues. But on the right, they can hammer that LGBTQ, and it works. And it works. Democrats can bring up anything. It's like, nah, it doesn't work. Like, their media sucks, even though they have more channels. It seems. Well, I don't think they have more channels anymore, actually.
Well, I mean, but what does it do for you? If you're a middle-class young Democrat, what do you care if California is the 4th or the 5th or the 6th largest
Democrat or
economy in the
Republican doesn't
world?
matter.
It's like, how are you gonna make my life better?
You still can't afford to live there.
No.
You
And
cannot.
Montana's even less affordable. It is.
So going back to that, what does the mayor do? I mean, the New York mayor, this new guy, he put out a platform. I mean, when I remember talking to Andy when he was the mayor, I said, Andy, what's the mayor do? It's like, he fixes the potholes, make sure the sidewalks are working, make sure the water's running. I mean,
exactly.
What do you think the mayor does in Calispell? Or, what do people really think about when they think about the mayor?
Well, I think to tie it to the discussion on the New York mayor's race is that one of the things that I understand of why this person did so well is because he was addressing the cost of living crisis for folks, and that's been a huge
big
issue.
deal.
It's a big deal nationwide.
And our county commissioners, again, turned down that $9 million, well, $4.5 and matched up to $9 million. I mean, I'm supposing they're endorsing your candidacy. But this should bite them in the ass, I think. And by you showing, what I think is the intelligence to say we've got to do something about this. We've complained to our city, and like Quinnell, of course, will say the city's not in the real estate business. I'm like, you own real estate.
Yeah.
You do own real estate. There are things you can do. I'd love to see a housing complex in the soccer field by Grouse Mountain. It would give the fucking Grouse Mountain Estates people a heart attack. But you know what? They own that land. It costs a lot to take care of it. Why wouldn't you do it? And you got to plan. You want to do things in Kalispell that to some people probably sound way too far left. But if we're going to sit here and brag about budgets and how much money we're saving, I mean, why wouldn't we put it back in our communities?
Yeah, and the affordable housing issue I think has been the most important issue in Kalispell, and it's when I first ran in 2019. That's the issue I ran on. I ran on it again when I ran for re-election a couple of years ago, and it's going to be the focus of my campaign for mayor because I know it's that cost of living issue is the number one issue that people are facing, and so what I want to do is I talk about this that. The city of Calispell has plans for everything. They have a plan for, water and sewer infrastructure and transportation infrastructure.
Killing homeless people.
Yes.
They do not have a plan for affordable housing.
They don't. No.
And why not? Most communities our size in Montana, they have a plan for affordable housing and homelessness.
When you become the least affordable state in America, that's out of 50 states. We are the least affordable.
I was going to say we got to be up
But look
there.
at Kalispell, though. I mean, Kalispell housing costs are significantly lower than Columbia Falls, significantly lower than Whitefish. You know,
Still
they're
expensive.
They're still expensive and still overpriced. Don't get me wrong, and it's still not affordable to working class folks. But something Calispell is doing is working because their prices are so much lower.
We've been building.
You're right.
We've
We've
been
been building.
We've been building.
You go by the
units.
bypass. I can't believe how many apartments. There's got to be thousands of units now.
We've in the time that I've been on council and I voted for the vast majority of them. We've approved something like 3,000 plus units of housing.
Well,
and
that's
that's like over a decade worth of supply for the city of Calispell, and so supply and demand is a big component of that. And I'm absolutely in favor of driving that of more supply within limits. I do think we have to do it the right way.
Right.
And I have voted against some
The
development
Costco
projects.
closer to Whitefish, you voted against that.
I'm not for more big box sprawl.
You know what? I'm with you. I don't want to see it happen. It's going to be all the way to Majestic Valley for sure within 5 years, right? It is.
Yes.
I mean, they got city services going out that far. I mean, but
it depends on how we build. Right?
It could be done smart.
If we sprawl, the more we'll chew up that open space land. But if we can build in a way that is more efficient and that mix the uses, we don't necessarily have to sprawl as quickly.
What do you think about Frank Garner's development? Because it got knocked down in size a little bit. Were you for that one? Or?
No, I voted against it.
You did?
I'll tell you why. A couple of reasons.
Frank's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, one
lot of
is
support.
it was. I do like Frank. Yeah, Frank's a great guy.
Program.
But that development, one, it was big and it was all single family.
Right.
And I do not support projects that are basically monoculture in the development. I have to see a mix of housing types.
Mixed use is important.
Mixed uses, but also the neighbors. A lot of times you get neighbors come and they make complaints and they're kind of
NIMBY.
They just don't want this NIMBY, right?
Yeah.
And I don't fall for that too often. On this one, I did feel they had legitimate arguments about safety at the intersections of 93 and Whitefish Stage with Tronstadt. I felt that there were some safety issues there that were legitimate. So ultimately, I did vote against it for those two reasons.
So now I want to ask you, I know you're not part of the Evergreen business community or whatever. They don't even have it. They're not even a real town.
I don't even know what they are.
But Jesus Christ. Reserve has been screwed up now for a while. That is in your territory. I'm not happy about that, but it's got to get done.
It's a mess.
But then I go all the way around Highway 2. Dude, yesterday, miles before, right around the airport, one lane all the way into Kalispell, dude. It took me 45 minutes. I was just burning. I'm like,
Brutal.
I can't take a right on roads. Where am I going to go? But I don't think we're never getting out of this in our lifetime with as fast as Kalispell. And you're a guy that would know. I mean, Kalispell, they tell us it's the fastest growing city. And I've asked Frank Garner.
Like
I've asked
in the nation.
In the nation,
Micropolitan area. Under
microclimate.
50,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And like Tammy Fisher, Frank Garner, these guys that are really plugged in, they have no idea how many people live here. We don't know. I mean, what's your guess how many people live in Calispell? I mean, it feels like 50,000 people.
No, we're about 31,000. We're just tipping around 30,000.
So then we really haven't grown that much in the last 5 years.
No, I mean, when I came on council, we were like 23,000. So
okay. All right, so 5 years was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember. I don't think it was. Actually, I moved here in like 99, and I think it was like 18,000 or something like that, or 17,000. Yeah, I suppose. So now you're saying 31.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right around there.
Yeah, that's it. And that's nothing compared to what's going to happen.
Countywide, we're like 110,000. Countywide.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you figure, Kalispell as the county
It's like
seat,
10,000
everybody's
people.
coming through there. We're servicing around 100,000 people in the city of Kalispell.
We're
We're really servicing about 3 million people because they're flushing the
Tourists.
toilets,
Tourists,
Yeah, we're getting,
to pay attention to.
it's been around anywhere from like 25 to 28 flights a day the last week coming into the valley. That's a lot of people.
A lot of flushes.
A lot of big planes too. I live right under the air path, and it's like, damn, man.
But I think Ryan made a really good point. And, I remember we dealt with it when I was on council here in Whitefish, and Andy and I have talked about it, Sweeney and I have talked about it, is you're not going to single family home develop your way out of the affordable housing crisis.
Never.
Density and mixed use residential absolutely has to be part of the solution, especially in a place like Whitefish where nobody wants sprawl, nobody wants to go north of 40. And then you go, okay, well, we've got a multi-use, dense place over on Skiles, and people came out in droves against that.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of people think, Well, who wants to live in an apartment?
A lot of people
Stop
do.
getting that, but I've seen council members, I've seen city
yeah.
leaders and important people. When this debate comes up, that's what they talk about. I've heard people say, well, why would you want to rent? Oh my God. There's some people out there that are they're out of touch.
Well, the state legislature took a lot of that decision-making authority away from the local city councils for a variety of reasons. But,
inclusionary zoning. We worked for years on inclusionary zoning on the city council, and then like that, it was gone.
Frank Gardner.
Okay, well, we're gone.
Frank Garner.
Yeah.
So there is a tie-in to transportation, though, in terms of the traffic. When you have like Frank's development, but not just Frank. I don't want to pick on Frank. There's lots of it
Nobody
out there
does.
that where you have all this single-family development, and it's to get to anywhere where there's commercial, you have to get in a car and you drive on 93 or wherever to get to your commercial. That is what is going to cause the traffic congestion that you see. What you need is, and I talk about this as complete neighborhoods, where you have developments that you have commercial built into
Yes.
it that people can walk to.
Which Whitefish is now
for-
not allowing
for their
it.
commercial needs.
Yeah. I see people walking in Kalispell, and I go, oh, the poor bastard got a DUI.
That's normally what you
just what
think.
I-
You're right, because it's rare. It's rare. And dude, when I first moved here, people would not stop at pedestrian crossings.
And
Nobody gave a
we're not
shit.
building streets that people want to walk along either.
Right.
We need to build streets that are enjoyable to walk down.
Are you burying the utilities on reserve? Are they burying the utilities now that you're digging it all up? Are you going to bury the utilities? Do you know that?
Oh yeah, I think they are.
Oh, they are good. Oh,
Yeah,
God,
I'm pretty
yes.
sure they are.
They built our bike path out here, and they didn't.
Oh really?
Couldn't believe it. Ripping up 3 miles, and you're not going to bury
I'm
the power
pretty
lines.
sure. I don't.
Quinnell strikes again.
Yeah, but Councilor, you guys have made some tremendous headways in making Calispell itself more walkable. I remember like a decade ago,
Yeah.
Calispell wasn't so walkable because it was
Not
kind
at
of
all.
a strip kind of going through there with
Yeah.
the Department of Transportation. Now there's kind of like activity happening down there.
Yeah, the Parkline Trail was huge, and super proud of that. That was just kind of finishing up as I came on council, and we haven't realized the potential of that yet, because the potential of that is really going to come when we have the development along the trail.
Have you talked to the guy that owns the mall? Have you ever talked to
I
that?
have not spoken to him.
Oh, you
but
haven't?
I've heard some of the plans. It sounds exciting, kind of what their vision is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we need. But one of the things that I proposed on council was design standards for along the trail to make sure that we have what the vision for the trail is awesome in terms of the development.
Yeah, it is.
But what we've had so far, we've had some single-story office buildings built along the trail. We've had a parking lot placed along the trail. This is not meeting the vision we had,
No.
and it would be a disaster for the future of the trail if we don't do something to ensure that we don't get more of that, right? We need the mixed use, the multi-story development along the trail to bring in that infill development, that population base, to support our downtown and make that trail a destination.
How much-
shops, restaurants, housing?
How much land does Calispell own? The city itself.
I don't know.
Is
that
it
number.
is there a bunch, or do they own? They own. I'm assuming a bunch of land.
Yeah,
Like-
I mean, we have everything from the city shops, the police department, all the departments. We have.
But
the
vacant land, lots.
parkland.
Like Whitefish owns vacant lots around town and
Yeah,
stuff. Like,
and so that we have a number of parking lots downtown that we own, and one of the big proposals that I'd like to see as far as the affordable housing plan is let's use those lots, partner with nonprofits to build income-based affordable housing on those empty lots.
and that's what so my idea, and I think, and I don't know if it's feasible, but like say, we've got these green spaces people want to keep, and I've talked about it a lot. People are getting sick of it, but I think it makes sense. They can talk to a developer that's got 60, 80 acres of canola, say, would you be interested in putting this in a land trust? We'll trade you. We'll give you a block downtown. You build a 10-story building with four stories deed restricted housing and 6 stories of $1 million condos with incredible views. I think a developer would take that. I do, personally. I think that's the only way we protect our green space, because this valley, I think we have an opportunity to keep some of these fields. Because, they didn't in Salt Lake, they didn't in Denver, and, obviously there's a lot bigger in Kalispell, but we don't know what Kalispell is going to look like in 20 years. In 20 years, Phoenix has gained 3 million people in a 20-year frame. I mean, it can happen, So, I just think that, going taller.
They're really projecting the Flathead to grow fast.
And
They are.
Well, look at the new Costco. It's going to be one of the biggest Costcos in the nation.
Is
I
it
mean,
now?
that's what I heard. I mean, and
Hell
why
yes.
not? Well, I was talking about this yesterday. Remember when they had the Home Depot? It's like, what the fuck? There's 4 cars there every day. Everybody goes to Western.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Then 2 years later, Lowe's, and you're like, oh my God, this is really stupid. Now these 4 cars are going between both places.
Like the third Costco location. You remember?
And this is the third one.
by the
Yeah.
airport.
Yeah,
So
by
there's
the airport way back when.
it's a lot of building here. There's a lot going on, and I don't know if you're prepared to handle this, Ryan. I'm just kidding. I mean, you're looking at how you get this influx of people every year. I'm assuming you must be understaffed as a city with cops and stuff and fire and EMT.
Well, we just passed a levy to increase, hire a
see
bunch
that.
of police officers and firefighters, and the community stepped up to pass that. I actually went door to door, knocked with the firefighters union to inform
good.
the public about that levy to, make sure that they had the information they needed to vote for it, and it's been huge. So we are staffed up on police and fire because of that levy, because the community stepped up. So we're really good space in that, and the council's done a good job of making sure that we do have the resources we need to fund adequately our infrastruture and having the
Oh
staffing
yeah, with
to
all
do
these
it.
new apartments and all these new people. I mean, it's like, it seems like you got 1 cop per 300 or 400 people.
They got plenty of cops.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, they keep you employed.
Don't
What do you-
worry.
Yeah, but they're not going after the tourists. I mean, your clients aren't the tourists.
No, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
they're not.
That is
They're
true.
MAGA.
So speaking of levies, you talked about this public safety levy. Isn't there another levy coming up in November in Kalispell? Kind of a big one for the new jail.
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
county. That's the county levy for the jail. Yeah,
They spent $3.9 million, I think, on that piece of land, like south of Kalispell.
Where's it by?
It's like,
The old airport?
no, it's down farther.
That was some
Oh.
of that federal money they used.
Yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'd be curious to get your thoughts on the new jail in Kalispell. Obviously, public defender, you can probably guess where I stand on the new jail. I think our jail's fine. I think we've got a little annex building behind the county attorney's office.
Isn't
where
it packed all the time, though? They can't even put people in there.
I mean,
They're
kind
letting
of.
murderers out
They
because
put
there's no room.
All the crazy people they put in there.
Right.
But they have a little annex by the county attorney's office where they used to house, juveniles that would come over and they need to be seen, or they'd house, sex offenders, people that need to be away from general population. They don't use that anymore. I don't know why that couldn't be used. But I'm just curious what's going to happen if this levy doesn't pass in November, and what the county's going to do with this $4 million piece of land they just bought.
But they'll probably have to sell. I don't know. I'm not involved in county conversations, but my understanding.
Why
is
aren't you
that
involved
we
in
are-
county conversations? Why do the commissioners don't even know the city council members or mayors of these cities? That to me is strange. Oh, well, they might not give a shit. Well, they give a shit when it comes to homeless people and black people ruining our way of life.
That's very true.
Brad Abel.
Yeah, I think we should have a better partnership with the county and more dialogue and communication. It is difficult, though.
Yeah, are they too uppity?
I think they are confident in the kind of their own opinions about how to move
They better
forward,
look in
and-
the mirror.
And they don't always agree with the way Calispell decides to run the city, and so
Well,
there's
they
a
got
lot
their
of disagreement.
building in your city.
There's what?
They got their courthouse in your city.
I know.
They got-
There's a lot of reasons why we should be cooperating.
Well, yeah,
absolutely.
they should be involved. You should be involved in the conversation on you're the biggest city in the county, and I mean, it is weird to me. Like after the whole housing thing, you turn down the $9 million, and what did Pam say in the paper? Like, oh, I think it's getting better. I see prices are coming down. What world is she in?
Bullshit.
And what is like?
Bullshit.
I'm assuming the 3 commissioners are very sheltered. I mean, really. I mean, you saw the Guardian article with Brad Abel, which, what blew my mind is nobody really called him out for that publicly. I mean, we did try every week, but I mean, it's just kind of a weird deal that he totally got away with it. He's like, my voters know where I stand. Okay.
You're right. It's a feature, not a bug.
So we have, so they are okay with the racism. All right.
So, but
Are we
back to-
Idaho?
Back to my jail question.
Yeah, jail.
Do you feel pressure at all running for the mayor of Kalispell? Do you feel like you have no choice but to be in favor of this jail? Because I would imagine that issue in Kalispell or in Flathead
Yeah.
County in general probably polls at like 65%. I would imagine most people are like, oh yeah, sure, we
But
could use
it's
it.
failed a couple times, right?
So I'm curious if
I'd say that to the extent that I hear about it, it's the complaint that people are committing crimes and being released because there's no space to hold them, and
I can
that's- That's why I hear.
I can tell you that, yes, that does happen on occasion.
I heard a new jail's also going to have a place for mentally ill people too.
Well, then that's supposed to be a big part of it, is
That's-
because the mental
Brodell
health
said
people
that.
need their own
Ryan,
space.
Ryan, you don't trust it, do you?
I'm
Randy
just saying,
said so.
well,
Randy
I
said
hope
so.
It sounds great.
Well, didn't the
but-
governor just veto that reimbursement bill?
Yes, he did.
He's up to 46.
46, but this was reimbursement money for
Yeah.
Wow.
But we did have and I didn't have your email address, so I didn't send it out, but I sent it to Ed and Mike. There was a very interesting piece that one of the judges commented on. Let me see here. He was at the county commissioner meeting, and he said,
Who's he?
Judge Eric Hummel,
Oh.
Justice of the Peace. I know Eric, great guy. We're friendly.
Don't you mean Judge?
Judge.
You better call him Judge.
Yeah, Judge Hummel.
Liberals are going to be pissed.
He said, we need a larger detention center. If there's a murderer, a rapist, and a thief, who do you let out? These are the decisions we make every day. We are turning turning
rapist.
away people who should be in jail because we don't have the room. So I would say to Judge Hummel, a murderer, a rapist, or a thief, probably the nonviolent guy would get let out. But, I mean, that's just me, lefty, liberal, loony. So I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't have to take an opinion being on the city council.
Right.
But again, what I'm hearing is that there are people being released because there's not enough space, and that's not a good thing. If we have people that need to be in jail for committing crimes and they're not because we don't have enough space, we need more space. Right. So if that's inaccurate, then I would love to hear about that.
That seems to be the case nationwide, though. I got to be honest. I see a lot of stories where every jail is full everywhere. I mean, it's a revolving door. It's a problem. There's too much money in it. I mean, as far as the nation goes, here I can see we have not built a new jail or gotten more rooms in how long, and our population's doubled in the last 50 years, 40 years, and we still have the same building that we did then.
And I'm totally open to like alternative forms of, just in terms of reforming folks and, get them straight and all this stuff. I think there's definitely models out there to pursue.
Like Wild Horse Island. We could just put them on there.
Yeah, we could.
But, that's a
such a
long-term
good
project,
idea.
and we have an immediate need right now.
Lord of the Flies
And
kind
so-
of thing.
And I don't mean to pick on Judge Hummel. I don't mean to put you on the spot. But, I will say, yes, there are times where I have clients that are horribly mentally ill, and it's the middle of winter, and jail is the best place for them because at least we know that they're going to have a place to sleep. They're going to have a blanket. They're going to have a pillow. They're going to have 3 meals. We call it 3 hots and a cot. So I do understand your point that, yes, there are people in society that can't play with others, and they can't play in the sandbox with others, so they got to go to jail. I get that.
But if it is an issue of mental health, right, jail is not the appropriate place to get mental health treatment. It's a horrible place.
No, it's a horrible place for that.
And
but that's what happens.
And hopefully, Bob Keenan, has passed this funding to restructure the whole mental health system in the state. And hopefully those funding sources will come locally and we'll get resources. Because we had one of our, during the pandemic, we had kind of an explosion of the homeless situation in Calispell, and there were 2 components of that. One was the spike in prices and the lack of availability of housing, and the other was in those years just prior, we had several mental health facilities closed down.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of people who were having their mental health breakdown on the streets, whereas before they were in facilities, and we need to get back to having appropriate facilities in our community for folks with mental health, and jail should not be it.
Right.
How about the outlaw?
Yeah, the outlaw. I mean, that'd
use
be a
that for
great idea.
something.
I mean, people think pathways as, we have a mental health center, we have pathways, but pathways is really only for emergency. They're an immediate danger to themselves or others. They go to pathways and sit there for a few days.
Did you show me a picture of a guy that's been in the county jail for like 2 years?
Since August of 2023.
Holy shit!
But
almost
in the
2
same vein,
years.
I don't blame a lot of these police officers where they respond to. I'm out of juice here. They respond to an incident, and the people are like, "Hey, my son's having a mental health episode. He's dangerous. I don't know what to do." Cops take him up to the hospital. They don't want to take him to jail. they start going crazy at the hospital. They throw a wheelchair. They break a window. The hospital says, look, we got a staff to worry about. They can't be here. And then they go, well, we can't just release them into the cold. We got to take them to the jail. And then it often just becomes an unfortunate last resort that a lot of these officers have to deal with. And I guarantee you, Brian Hanel will tell you the same thing. Travis Honor will tell you the same thing. Jenny Root, the commander of the jail, will say, look, jail is not the place for the mentally ill. We need to be better as a state on how to handle this issue.
And people are concerned about the cost of dealing with homelessness and so on. And it's like, we are already spending that money. We are spending it with the police and with the hospital and so on.
Yes.
And it's actually cheaper to invest in affordable housing and mental health care than it is to deal with it in these ways.
When you take a mentally ill person to jail for shoplifting, you immediately get 3 lawyers involved. You get a defense attorney, you get a prosecutor, and you get a judge. The amount of resources we expend on, I've seen restitution requests for 89 cents for a candy bar. The amount of resources we spend on that is shocking.
So it sounds like the county wants a new jail. They put up some
Yes.
by the property.
Yes.
And maybe the voters.
Randy's all for
maybe
it.
The voters don't vote for it. It's hard to tell because in this tax season and stuff. But what's the beef with the county and the sheriffs? Why are they so mad at the sheriffs? Why can't they pay the sheriffs
They
more
just
money?
what they do. They just did he veto a bill to increase their pay too? They didn't get a pay increase, and they're looking at 3% or something
Yeah,
like that.
they want
the cost
new
of
jail,
living.
but why not pay the sheriffs more money too?
I mean, how much are they going to care about their job when they're just not making? I mean, it's same with teachers, same with there's a lot of professions that barely make $50,000 a year in this valley, and that blows my mind. That is nuts. You're making more money in a restaurant these days.
I don't make $50,000.
Jeez. I mean, it's nuts. Well, but you've owned your house more than 4 years, probably.
Yeah, no, I bought it in 2016, so I got lucky.
Bazinga!
So while we're on the topic of the mentally ill and the homeless in the Flathead Valley, you were one of the only people that I saw in Flathead County, at least the city of Calispell, that talked about the disaster that would be pulling the conditional use permit of the warming center. I think it's a fair statement to say that you called it. You said, we're going to get smoked. We're going to lose this lawsuit. It's going to end up costing the city a whole lot more money. Can you kind of give us a little background into what led to that?
Is that why Johnson isn't running again?
What's that?
You think that's why Johnson's not running?
I
feel
but there was another person who was
Chad.
probably not running over that issue.
That's what I assume. I would assume.
Yeah, I don't want to. There's probably a number of reasons why he's not running, but and I think that issue is a perfect.
It was clear to you too. Like you were clear-headed and this is wrong. What are you thinking?
It was obvious to me, but I think it's a perfect example of why we need new leadership at the city council because here we had an issue where there were real concerns in the neighborhood that needed to be addressed and talked about. Absolutely. There needed to be dialogue between the warming center and the neighborhood. But to go about it by threatening the permit to the warming center was absolutely the wrong way to do it. And that was kind of the poor leadership that we saw at the city council level, where we need a change in that kind of vision.
And to be honest, they don't even help. They don't pitch in any money. They don't help it at all. And here they are trying to take it away. And in my position, sorry if it sounds so liberal, but I think they absolutely have an obligation to take care of. That's what government is for. It's for taking care of the citizens. Of course, most people are going to say that. I bet Sid doesn't think that at all. There's no way. Sid don't even want roads or cops, no taxes, But
you're willing to take care of them in jail.
Yeah, of course.
You're willing to put them in jail and take care of them.
That's how we should take care of them because we're getting, $100 a day for them, Yeah, you're right. But it is, it's kind of, it always blew my mind how, when, Brad Abel makes it still all the commissioners signed the letter together, about don't help these people, don't give them money and this and that. It's like, I don't get it. Other than they're incredibly sheltered, they've been wealthy their whole lives, and they've never seen a homeless person until it happened. And and I explained to somebody on the right, more MAGA, not just I think most of your Republicans and conservatives get it, but the MAGA, they don't get anything. They don't. And they're the bootstrap. We got to pick up by the bootstraps. It's your fault. It's like, man, when your rent goes from $500 to $1,800 a month, there's no. I mean, and this is something that absolutely happened. Rent had tripled, in months, and that creates crime and homelessness. So you're taking money away from cops. You know, you're not helping the warming center. I mean, you're trying to shut it down right before winter. How cold and horrible. And, like, what do they stand to lose other than, I guess, pride, you know, because they don't want to see their community with these homeless people. Well, then do something about the fucking prices. Well, you can't. It's capitalism. You can't do a thing. So I think it's up to them to find a solution instead of, I mean, if they were successful and they closed it down, where would those people have gone?
Right. It would have made the situation
In the bar of the
worse.
Majestic Valley?
It would have made the situation in the community worse.
Way worse.
And, you know,
Crime would have been worse.
The warming center was saving lives. So, you know, we could have seen people die as a result. And, you know,
Sadly, some people don't care about that.
I think this, you know, notion, and you see this in any community where there's a homeless problem, this idea that the homeless are not from here. They're coming here because
Nope,
of
not the case.
the services and so forth. That's been debunked.
I think Tanya said 90%.
here locally.
90% were locals.
Oh, yep, 80, 90% are
Well,
locals.
Randy or
and
Brad
that's
said
true
they-
in any community.
Yeah.
And I think it's a psychology of wanting to have an excuse not to doing right. If they're not locals, then it's not our problem,
Right.
and it's an invasion, and it's somebody else's problem, and so on.
They're
So
seen
it's
as lazy, you know, this and that. Like, you know, the homeless people we've had around here up until the pandemic have been mentally ill. And that's a majority of homeless people, at least half, you know what I mean?
I would say-
And they don't know how to move to a warmer climate and they're not going to be networked with people, you know, like our commissioner said they were.
The homeless population is a bigger population. There's the folks you see on the street, the visible ones.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a sizable portion that have.
Yeah, the dude with the cardboard box with the bling on asking for money outside Home Depot, I'm not giving him money.
There's lots of homeless folks you don't see, and that's important to keep in mind.
Of course,
You know,
a
there's
lot.
a much bigger population. Yeah.
I heard all along the trails, like the railroad trail and stuff, and in Whitefish they've been under the bridge by our trail.
I mean, how can you not? You look at the real estate market in the Flathead. $867,000 for a median price home in the Flathead.
That's insane.
$2,200 a month rent.
Yeah.
$2,200 a month rent.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And I read an interesting book. It's called Homelessness is a Housing Problem. It's a great book if you want to read more about
So
this
you
stuff.
read books. Now that's good for,
Boy,
for
this
mayor.
is not
I mean, that's
looking
probably
good for your
unprecedented.
election in Calispell.
I think you just lost a few votes.
You know, but I love this example when it.
Oh, you read under
comes
the
to-
deal. There, his stock just went up.
When it comes to homelessness, is to think about it like a game of musical chairs. And, you know, you have people going around, but one of the people playing musical chairs is on a crutch, right? You take away the chair. Who's going to be the one without the chair? It's going to be the person who's most disadvantaged.
weakest.
The weakest. And that's, so you have
we
people
don't
that
want
blame
those.
on homelessness, on substance abuse, on mental health. And yes, those are absolute factors. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's the lack of housing.
It's economy.
And then it's the folks that were most vulnerable, the mentally ill, the addicted. But also, a lot of these folks, they may have been coping as long as they had housing. But once they lost their housing, that's when they gave in to their addictions. That's when they had
Because
their
at that
mental
point, their
health
credit cards were
breakdown.
maxed out. They couldn't get any
Well,
more
because
credit.
it sucks living on the streets.
Right.
That's
But you know what
disgusting.
works? Booze.
Yeah, that
Makes you
does.
feel better.
Yeah.
Well, try sleeping in negative 20-degree weather. You know, I mean, the best way to do that is get, you know,
Drunk.
wasted.
Oh, yeah, I've done that.
And you talked about the psychology of like how people view the homeless, and I think a very interesting part that I deal with every day as a public defender is, I would argue almost anybody in the Flathead Valley is much closer to a homeless person than they are to Elon Musk.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
without a
they're
doubt.
a few bad months away from living on the street.
So why don't you want to give that guy in Home Depot $5?
You know, because I just...
It's against the law now, and
'Cause-
so I have to think about it every time.
Call me a conservative, but I think that guy who's standing on 2 feet could probably get a job.
Okay?
You know, I think of the people that are struggling with families and like living in their cars and like dropping their kids off at school, and you know these I'm not into the panhandlers so much on the corners. That's just me personally, you know, because it's like I don't know, like the restaurant down the street just stopped doing lunches because they can't get staff. You know, and
Really?
that keeps happening. You know, it's happening everywhere.
Which
Everybody
restaurant?
struggles. The Jalisco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yep. Should help my business, I hope. I don't know.
They should pay more.
Well, That's what I go by, and I haven't had any turnover in a long time.
Well, and I've always advised people when it comes to panhandling is, put that money towards the warming center, the Samaritan House, the
Yes.
food bank,
There you go.
organizations that are working with folks to get them off the streets. That'd be a better use of the money because you don't know how these folks are going to use the money. You don't even know if these folks are really homeless or what they're.
I
That's
don't really
it.
care how they use the money.
Yeah,
They
Mike
spend
just
the
gives it
money
to him. Mike just,
however
fuck
they
it.
want to spend the money.
I don't want
on that
it.
one.
I sold an extra 20 heads of lettuce today.
Hey, buddy,
there
I'm
you
going to
go.
spend it on beer too, so go nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there are people that make professions out of it. I guess Dan Dubuque, he has a guitar, but he still gets people to hand him money. We're
But
talking.
I do feel like we do have an empathy problem.
Oh,
in the Flathead
yeah,
Valley when it comes
big
to the
time.
homeless. I'm not saying we need to put them up in hotels and give them bubble baths and things like that.
Like Los
But,
Angeles.
My standard line is when people bitch about the homeless people, I say, look, I mean, would you trade places with them?
Yeah.
Well, they get they
No.
get $80 in food stamps a month. It's like, would you?
Yeah, would you?
Their
Is
life
that what
than
you
yours?
want?
Well, no, and it's like, well, maybe cut them a break.
Well, and just understanding the true situation that, people are not coming here to be homeless in Montana's winters, right?
No.
The warming center is not so luxurious that people are coming here because they
Why
heard
would
it's
you?
a
Yeah,
great
I'd be
place
like, well,
to
it's
be
June. I'm
homeless.
off to Death Valley to be homeless. It's like it doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
Well, that's the talk about how when they were saying these people are. I remember it was Abel or I think it was Brodell said it, that these people are networked on their cell phones. They know where these warming centers are. They know where to get a free lunch.
God, that is
God, you
bullshit.
fucking moron, dude.
Such bullshit.
I mean, it is just that mindset. Like, I don't know how dumb you have to be to have that mindset. You got to be just naive as fuck or just plain dumb. I don't know where that comes
Well,
from.
it's easy, right? Like you were talking about. Like
Randy's a traveled guy. He knows.
It's easy to just chalk it up to, well, this guy's really rich. He's just faking. I don't know if this is a problem. I don't even have to worry about.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Well, culturally, it is kind of the way to be. This MAGA attitude, the bootstraps, and like I just saw the other day, they're trying to roll back some asbestos regulations now. Trump administration, and on social media, the MAGA people are like, woohoo! They're fucking happy about it. How? Why? Just because it's something that the MAGA's doing, and it's like sticking it in the face of these liberals because they're fighting for people's health. I mean, even in Libby, they didn't want the Clinton disaster money years ago because they don't want it because it's Bill Clinton, I guess. But like, why go out of your way to like fist pump and give credence to something like rolling back asbestos regulations? And granted, it's not all asbestos; it's brake pads, it's things. But these things are and have been made out of other materials. It's not necessary, but there's some industry that still can make money off this stuff, and it's America, and they want to make the money. But to have people cheering on this, like, yeah, bring back asbestos.
It's crazy.
What is that?
Oh, it's just nutty stuff. I think it's a lot harder out in the valley than people give it credit for. I had a young lady come to the farm today, and she picked up a bunch of rhubarb that the Iron Horse kids actually picked for them. And
Iron Horse kids?
Yeah, we had some Iron Horse kids come to the farm, picked rhubarb for the food bank.
Nice of them.
Yeah, they did a good job. They're all about this big, so, But the lady came
So
picked
not
up from
Dixie
the
yet.
food bank, and she said they have 1,100 clients.
Yeah.
1,100
Our food in
clients
Whitefish.
in the food bank in Whitefish
it's more
that
than you
serves
think.
the North Valley and goes up the canyon, up that way and up that way. And they have big outreach, but 1,100 clients.
So the big beautiful bill's going to strip a lot of money for all this shit. Obviously, we've all heard. I've heard of Montana's going to have 11 food banks it's going to affect. That's a pretty big number. I mean, how many food banks are in Montana? Probably 11. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. Honestly, this bill, you said 2 weeks ago, it's passing.
It's passing.
I don't know. The Senate is now.
It's passing.
It looks like Ron Paul, Murkowski, Ron Johnson. They're not going
Beg
to
an
vote.
order of wings. At
Well, Trump invited them all to dinner this week.
Double wings on that. They're not letting that $4 trillion
Okay,
vaccine treaty
but
go
I don't
back.
think it's going to pass as it is.
No.
I don't.
thought
They cannot take this Medicaid. They can't. There's no way.
Oh,
And-
they will. I think.
They'll actually add more to it.
Yeah,
since they
I think
can't sell the
Medicaid's
public
in.
lands.
I think they're going to fight about public lands. I think they're going to fight.
Oh yeah,
about,
that's not going anywhere. Well, then some
Well,
committee
the
just.
parliamentarian said,
Yeah, the parliamentarian said no, you can't do that. And well, thank God too. I mean, the thing is like we all know.
You think, but Danes is going, oh my God, thank God
Yeah,
for
thank-
that parliamentarian. Give
No
her a raise.
shit. No shit. But somehow they negotiated Montana out of it.
Yep.
I mean, unbelievable. Where it's like, okay, because these other states are now fucking pissed at us on the social media. Like, we don't get it. For some reason, Montana's not affected, but in Idaho,
Lee and Danes are seatmates.
you know, it's funny. They talk about it's for necessary housing and shit. Bullshit. This is not. It's just no way. You know, this is for huge, big, beautiful mansions that are going to have their own
They'll
wells.
be for housing, but there'll be no sideboards on it.
Yeah,
it's kind
they're-
of like
exactly.
the development that we're seeing in a lot of places in the valley. No sideboards. Building
sideboards.
another $750,000 condo that's the workers going to afford.
And that's exactly, you know, how they bill it, and they make it sound like it's going to be very great for the country. But yeah, no, it's silly, and that's something that, you know, I'm sure Mike Lee's going to try to fight it. I would assume, you know, but if the parliamentary says,
God, he's a
he has
worm,
to
isn't
fight
Dude.
it because Danes and Sheehy need to come out as the heroes, as the people who stopped it. So if
Right.
you don't have the theater, you can't have the heroes. You
You're
can't
right.
run for re-election saying, I stopped this.
and he is a hero, right? Right, just want to make, no, he's an American warrior. I think
Trans
that's-
hero. He.
She, the pronoun king.
Yeah, he is the
Wow,
pronoun king.
man, wow. I still can't believe. Ryan, you had a pretty good rant, and I wanted you to repeat that. I
Yeah?
can't remember it.
Which one? What was it about? I have many.
The Democrats, it's an email. Remember I said you got to say that on the show? It was pretty
yeah,
good.
I do have a lot of problems with the Democrats. You know, it's interesting that they're now.
But not this New York Democrat.
Join the club.
Right?
Yeah, I
You
mean,
don't
we'll
have-
see with
you got
him, but
problems with him too.
it's interesting that you have, you know, national Democrats now polling below mesothelioma, you know, with the asbestos coming back. No, I think I know what you were talking about. I think it was the war in Iran,
Oh, yeah.
where I was saying, I was talking to Russell Cleveland, you know, who
Yes.
was on the show a
That's
few
right.
weeks ago.
That's
who's
right.
running against
Oh, yeah, he
Satan.
said the bill was passing, too.
And he was talking about, you know, we don't need to get into another conflict in the Middle East, and, you know, what message should, you know, the Democrats take with this bombing in Iran.
the golf course. Put in 3 holes already, right?
Yeah. And I said, you know, I think an interesting point to make about all this is you had these same Democratic politicians and journalists over the weekend selling the same war in Iran the same thing they did in Iraq. And my question was, if these people that sold us this bill of goods from Iraq had ever paid any sort of professional consequence for their disastrous judgment or even outright deception when it came to weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, would we as a nation even be talking about this bombing in Iran today? Because I believe really the only Democratic politician or figure that paid a price for their position on the war in Iraq was Hillary Clinton in 2016, because she got hammered in that campaign. It was Donald the Dove versus Hillary the Hawk. He was the candidate of peace. You know, that was the campaign line. You know, and now we've got everyone else, though, is still aboard the gravy train, and they're still selling us the same horse shit about this is going to be a limited strike in Iran. This will not evolve into a full-blown conflict like Iraq. Give me a goddamn break.
It's
That's
one
my
of the things-
rant.
Yeah, that's a good rant. You think
my
it makes us safer? That's the question that I really want somebody to answer. Does it make us safer? Because if it makes us safer, it's good. If it doesn't make us safer,
If it
And
doesn't make it safer, it's all about money.
Hillary probably got hit twice on that because she probably lost to Obama in 08 because
Yes.
of the same, you know, Iraq war. vote.
Yep, yeah, because she voted for it. No, that actually tanked her big time.
I did have some
That should
other.
have tanked everybody, but
I did have some other jokes for you, Ed, about the bombing in Iraq. So as you know, it
bomb,
was
bomb,
called.
bomb, bomb,
Yeah.
Iran.
So it was called codename Operation Midnight Hammer.
Oh, yes, it was. That's
Once
right.
the bombing was finished,
Hegseth
that
loved that name.
signal or something.
yeah, once the bombing was finished, Pete Hegseth implemented Operation Lunchtime Hammered.
Oh, I like that. That's very good. Lunchtime hammered. Yeah, you could tell he loved that name. You know, and what a fucking dick about everything he is. I mean, the whole administration is. It's like their thing. And again, I go back to the MAGA, the conservative, the macho thing. It's like, you know, they get a lot of votes on that. They get a lot of votes on being the macho in your face, you know, like, and normally, you know, people don't like those people generally in smaller circles, but for some reason in national politics and stuff, it's like these people love it. I mean, the praise they get. I mean, Hegseth has a lot of love out there, and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't know, but this is what I mean, how do the Democrats fight that shit? Did the
Well,
Democrats get
warmongers have
macho?
been around for a while.
Well, right,
You
yes.
I think they need to hit back hard. I think it was in our first episode when we had PJ on, the guy who had just gotten laid off from the Forest Service. We brought him up. He was in the bar, and it's like, hey, can anyone at Doge just real quick just let me know? Because I would imagine that this bombing, when you're firing Tomahawk missiles from a submarine and you're scrambling B-52 bombers, I bet this whole thing costs
125 jets.
I would say it costs anywhere from $250 to $300 million.
Oh yeah, at least.
So can anyone at Doge let me know? Is that more or less than the temporary part-time? Forest Service employees that
they ended up hiring back anyway and retraining and spending more money.
Is it making us safer? If it's making us safer, it's good money.
Yeah.
If it's not making us safer, it's bad
and
money.
I think Democrats need to get a little pissed off.
I don't need to. Well,
talk about this stuff a little bit.
Do they know how?
My dad was in the Merchant Marines, and he used to go up through those straits getting that oil from places like Iran, and
Wow,
and
really?
He saw those straits getting laden with mines. I remember those days. I remember when Frodo or Fordo or whatever was released. W said after
Lord of the Rings.
And Obama said, I said, oh, this is going to be a problem. 20 years later, it's a problem. And I still remember the last Shah. Yeah. When the CIA was over there?
Yes.
And Atoms for Peace. Anybody remember Atoms for Peace? That's when America gave nuclear power to Iran.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. That wasn't that long ago.
No, Iran-Contra wasn't that long ago. And, and Americans don't, their memory goes about a year or two. And it's obvious, we don't really think about that shit. In a lot of Americans' eyes, the Democrats are the corrupt ones. They're, the Biden crime family. We forget about, Nicaragua and Iran-Contra and all these things that happen and keep happening. What do you think about Trump saying they don't know what the fuck they're doing?
So I think that was geared towards, I think he wants a Nobel Peace Prize so bad.
Well,
I think he wants to.
Marjorie Taylor Greene all but said he's getting it.
I think he needed.
He needs to get it really bad.
He needed the situation to be resolved because if you look at it, was splitting the Republican Party. Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon on one side, and so
Tucker did a good job calling everybody out.
Yes.
He actually did. It surprised me.
Well, but now these people, all the Trump people on the right, have shifted the goalposts. They're saying, okay, we bombed, but there's no regime change. There's no boots on the ground. This is no war.
We didn't get the enriched uranium. We're still looking for that.
But doesn't the United States joining Israel's war against Iran make us a party to the war?
It does.
It doesn't seem
we
that
dropped a bomb on
complex
foreign
to
soil.
it.
We dropped a bomb on foreign soil. That is an act of war, by definition.
We didn't tell Congress till after the fact.
Which is fucked.
I guess what I would go to is, does Iran think we've joined the war?
Trump is unstoppable.
They think we've joined the war. I guess we have.
Here's where I think people are losing touch. Of course we have. Here's where I think people are losing touch with the Democratic Party, too. Even the people that have been Democrats that are fed up, people like us, they're like, wow, this president, he can do whatever he wants. Yes, he's lost a lot of court cases. A lot of his shit's in court. He's losing kind of regularly. But doesn't matter. His executive orders and this bombing in Iran, that definitely should go through Congress. It should get their approval. But there is no ramifications to this guy to do whatever the fuck he wants, and we got 3.5 years left of it, I guess.
Just
with the Democrats just shutting the fuck up and not doing anything, except Cory Booker.
They're not saying anything. Cory Booker stood up for a day, and that was that a couple weeks ago.
Because they probably support the war too. They're figuring out how to lie to their
constituents. They certainly don't want to vote on their resolution.
Yeah.
War stocks. I looked at most of the war stocks, and they haven't moved. And sometimes that's pretty telling, on the activity and the share what's being traded.
A little bit, but
it did. But like Raytheon and all these, they did, like if you look at back, the Iraq War, in Afghanistan, and any of these military operations we do, their stocks, they go up. But they're all sitting about where their all-time highs have been anyway over the last 5 years. So it's not like, there's no indicator saying that we're actually going full-on into this. But it still pisses me off that the president gets to fucking do this.
Yeah, he's been doing that all the time. And he's getting shit done. And that's what a lot of voters actually want. They want the border to be secure. They want Iran not to be a menace.
Yeah.
And
everybody's wanted that.
And because we are the day-of-the-day politics, and we don't think about this.
But on the Iran thing, Netanyahu's been saying that they're weeks away from a nuclear missile for 30 years. No fucking lie. 30 years. I've watched the recordings over 30 years of him saying this. So we don't know. I don't think we know. I'm hoping we know. We have, and our intelligence is obviously intelligent.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't know.
And now the U.S. intelligence said that with the bombing, it only set them back
A couple months. And that was leaked out. Finally, something gets leaked out from this administration.
Yeah.
When's the Epstein stuff getting leaked out?
And we know that they didn't have nuclear weapons. There was no assessment that they were pursuing the nuclear weapons, and they had negotiators negotiating a nuclear deal who Israel killed. They assassinated the negotiators, and it's very confusing if you don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons to assassinate the people who are negotiating a deal not to have nuclear weapons.
It is insane, and it leads me to believe that Netanyahu is just a guy that wants ultimate power for as long as he can, much like anybody in those shoes, I suppose.
Well, he was doing poorly in the polls, and now he's doing better.
Yeah.
Well, and ultimately, he wants regime change in Iran. It's more about that than it is about.
Without a doubt. And another rant. Israel. Okay, here's the deal. This fucking pisses me off really bad. Obviously we love Israel. Israel has taken over most of Palestine over the last 100 years, just stealing land whenever the fuck they want. We're giving them $4 billion a year to do it. They have free abortions, and that's right, MAGA. Free abortions in fucking Israel, okay? They have free health care. They have free education. And Trump talks about these countries ripping us the fuck off. We're fucking losers. They're all ripping us off. Why don't you start with Netanyahu and Israel for the tune of $4 billion a year plus the military aid? Yeah. I mean, $4 billion a year we're giving to Israel, and they have basically a socialist fucking society. Everything's free. I mean, they do live in a big
Israel and poor Calispell that can't just
get
no federal money.
I mean, how many homeless people does Israel have? I wonder. Do they have a homeless population?
I don't know. But back on that homeless thing, Kalispell's the only place in the valley doing anything about it. Right? Is that true? Anybody else?
Oh, yeah. Whitefish is subsidizing workers' housing.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of folks in Calispell who are asking, why is there not a homeless shelter in Whitefish?
I know. It's hilarious.
Fair point. That's a fair point.
Well, I do think because we ship them to Kalispell.
Yeah. Well, I say sensibly, you want it centrally located in the biggest city, of course.
Right. It makes sense that.
It does. I get the joke that why don't you do it in Whitefish? You have the money and this and that. I get it. You know what I mean?
You cannot have their real kids downtown with all that resort money's passing through there.
You're right, you can't.
You guys get the homeless shelter. She'll take the pre-release center when they build.
That would be. That'd be awesome,
yeah.
man.
We got some nice lakefront property. We'll throw
it
up.
But in reality, what I tell people is that with Warming Center, they have limited funds. They had one facility set up. They bought the property that was available to them. It's not like they went and said, we want to be on Meridian. That's where they found a property that fit their needs.
And a lot of their donations come from Whitefish.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
If somebody wants to donate, the money to buy land, open a shelter up here and staff it, I'm sure they'd be happy to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, pretty much most communities should have something, and I know, the things associated with things like that aren't always, a beautiful thing or a good thing for any community, but you got to have some compassion, especially in a place where it's exploding as much as it is here. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to stop exploding. I mean, this place is beautiful. You know how many people I've met that during the pandemic moved to Bozeman and they come up here on a weekend vacation and they're like, what the fuck? Why did we buy in Bozeman? What the fuck?
It's not going to stop it exploding at all.
No.
It's one of the things I think about the locals who have lived here for a long time. They're seeing a lot of change, a lot of density change and that kind of stuff. I mean, when you talk to the counselor, to the locals, I mean, what kind of services do they want out of Calispell? Is it really good roads, good sidewalks, good water and sewer, good services when they need them? I mean,
what do the voters tell you?
Yeah, I mean, the first responsibility of city government is to provide those services that people need on a day-to-day. It's, making sure that the water comes out of the tap, that, your sewer goes to the right place and gets treated, that you have police and fire, so you have the safety. And so that's absolutely and it's an investment. You got to invest in your community and make sure that those services and that infrastructure is in place and that you plan for it. And I think we've done a good job overall. I think, where we are lacking is that lack of plan for affordable housing and doing more than just approving units. That's a big part of it. Supply and demand is a big part of it, but we have to have that subsidized, that income-based affordable housing component, and that's partnership with our nonprofit providers. And we haven't seen, the situation with the permit with the warming center is an illustration of where we're lacking in that partnership mentality of these folks are providing incredible service in our community, and we need to recognize that, and we need to tap that and kind of energize it with the really the power of government.
Well, the voters that you talk to, obviously homelessness is a thing, and if you're just outside and not paying attention and watching city council meetings, you're going to assume from the county commissioners and from Johnson and from Chad and these guys about how horrible and the blight and nobody wants it and this kind of thing. But when you watch your council meetings in the public hearing, public comments, you're hearing way more people supporting and wanting you to do something about this than not, is what I see. You know what I mean? When I watch it. But I think the overall impression is, well, the county leaders don't want it, the city leaders don't want it, and there's nothing they can do about it. But I'm assuming the voters you talk to, and you talk to a lot of them, that comes up, and that's an important. I would assume, to a lot of people, it's like, I'm sure you get the random people that say, yeah, I just don't want it. It's ugly and it's gross, so just sweep it under the rug or something. But you can't get rid of it. You can plainly see that. And a lot of the voters see that by public comment. And, I just wonder what these people think when they go home after this public comment, this marathon session. I mean, I remember one of these last winter where, or last fall.
4.5 hours?
4.5 hours. I was like, holy Christ, I'm going to watch the rest of this in the morning, I guess, But I saw a lot of caring, good people in Calispell. Made me change my tune a little bit about, saying, okay, there's at least enough sensible people here that probably aren't going to support Mark Johnson again, probably aren't going to support some of these people that have been so hardcore against. Like, Abel comes up next year. And we'll see. We'll see if somebody runs against him is smart enough to talk about the Guardian interview. It's smart enough to talk about his opinions on these things, And again,
don't bring smarts into this podcast.
Not with Brett. Nope.
Yeah.
No way. I always say about people like him, I said either they're just ignorant as fuck or dumb as fuck.
But this is going to be
those circles might overlap.
They might overlap.
This is going to be a slightly different election in Calispell. You guys are going to the first time mail-in ballot, right?
Oh yeah, 100% mail-in.
And so that will.
I don't trust that.
Boost
It should, yeah.
turnout.
Yeah, and it turns out that's becoming quite a controversial.
Is it easier for the illegals to vote that way? That's what I hear.
Well, that's a conspiracy online that this is all
Thriving
about ballot
illegal
harvesting
immigrant
and
population
everything.
in Kalispell.
Ultimately, what influenced my vote, I did vote for the mail-in only ballot, and the reason for that was two things. One, obviously, it costs more money. We were the only municipality in the valley who was still going in person for elections, and it cost us money. That's one thing. But
Right.
two, it was explained to us that because of the bond issue that the county that would be on the ballot, if we did not do mail-in ballot only, they would come to the voters in two different ballots. And if a voter put both of those ballots in one envelope,
Oh, no.
then the vote would be
Nullified.
rejected.
Done.
And so I felt like there would be a lot of rejected votes as a result of that. And so we really, to preserve people's vote, we had to go mail-in only ballot.
And did you vote on that?
Mail has worked
Did
well
you vote
in
as a-
Whitefish for a long time. I mean, it really does boost Whitefish's turnout.
I love voting in
By a
person.
huge amount, and so you guys are going 100%.
So does my mom. She likes to vote in person.
I love it. I love the sticker.
Registered voter in the city of Kalispell.
Yeah, the sticker.
I love it.
And it should.
Look at
it
that
should
hat on
boost
the end.
Turnout,
It's got a
which
I
is great
voted sticker
because
on it.
Turnout on municipal elections is pathetic. It's really low. So obviously, more turnout is a good thing for democracy.
It's good.
So I got another question for Ryan. We talked a lot about affordable housing, and it's refreshing to see someone running for office in the Flathead Valley that says we need to build more houses, because that always seems like
Nathan Dugan. Here's another one.
Yeah, well,
Well, he's running too.
yeah, he's running.
Yeah, he is.
But it always seems like, when I was on council and whenever I read about this, I go, well, it seems to me like it's just an issue of supply. Build more houses. So I saw an interesting article the other day that said,
Build more houses, but build some smaller ones too.
yeah, it said states are slowly dismantling the big obstacle to solving the housing crisis. Do red states build more housing per capita than blue states? And it really seems like that is a true statement. You have a lot of red states, you have Montana, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, that have really kind of figured out how to cut through, I hate the phrase red tape, it just drives me nuts. So
Cop
do you
out.
think that we're maybe turning a corner in the state where, if it seems like the political will is there, like the the governor, he's actually on the front page of the Politico article. It's Gianforte.
Really?
So do you think that we're there where it's like, look, if we want to build more units, if Whitefish
867.
if Whitefish wants to build more units, Calispell, Columbia Falls, the government has essentially said, look, we're going to get out of the way of the developers. Do you think we've turned a corner there?
I think we're on the precipice. I think it could go either way. I think there's definitely a movement going in that direction, and there's definitely a resistance to it, and I think it's going to be telling in the coming years which way it's going to go. There's definitely folks who have kind of an ideology of, removing all regulation or having more government regulation. I'm very much a person who says it depends. It depends on what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve.
And it should depend. It really should depend.
Yeah.
You can't. That's not a black and white thing. It depends.
It depends on who you're building houses for.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a resort community like the Flathead with 3 million people coming and going, they're going to buy up some of that supply. And so if you're just building big houses, you're not really building anything for the working class.
40% of Whitefish homes are second homes. 40%.
And is it just a problem with NIMBYs? And for those that don't know, NIMBY is
Not my backyard.
Not in my backyard. And you typically see it in very liberal blue state areas like San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, where they can't get anything done because the NIMBYs show up and they go, look, we're all in favor of affordable housing. We're all in favor of building more houses, just not here because, I don't want to live next to it.
We're all in favor of a non-nuclear Iran, but just not the way Trump's doing it.
Yeah.
The NIMBYism is a big component, but when it comes to regulation, that's one where I'm very in favor of loosening regulation around zoning, because I think zoning presents a lot of barriers to building.
All the barriers.
Yeah,
that is the barrier.
I don't understand why we have zoning that says, for example, there's this idea that as you move out to the outskirts of the city, you have lower density housing because it's adjacent to rural areas. And I've always said, now.
For how long?
Right. 50 years from now, it's not going to be the edge of the community.
The college used to be a rural area.
Yeah, you build that lower density now, and 50 years from now, it's not going to be the edge, but you're still stuck with that lower density. It doesn't make any sense. It also doesn't make sense to me to say the zoning of this whole area over here is going to be this single family whatever, and I'm like, no. It can be all sorts of things. It could be mixed use. It can be multifamily. Yes. It can be single family. It can be all those things. Let's say that, let's open up the zoning to allow for that creativity of development.
100%
in new areas, right?
I think that NIMBY is too simplistic. It's for simple minds. Because the reality is people know what they want in their neighborhoods. And they were willing in places like Whitefish to trade density for affordability.
Yeah.
And they did that locally. And then the state legislator in Gianforte came and said, no, you can't do it that way. And now what we're getting over and over and over is all these buildings that the workers can't afford.
Yes.
And so damn right the workers are going to be pissed off that we keep building stuff for the tourists moving here.
Yes.
And so it's not as simple as MIMBY and YIMBY.
No.
We got to build stuff that has sideboards on it that people can actually afford.
Yes.
Well, the rest of the country's a little different. You get back to the big, beautiful bill in the public land sale, and they're talking about it's for housing and affordable housing, and that's how they're dressing it up. But a study just came out, or statistics just came out. Right now, there's 500 more thousand homes in America not here, but in all of America for sale. And this is, this comes out at the same time they're trying to, push this public land sale through, where there's now 500,000 homes available more than there are buyers out there. So how does it even make sense to even want to sell these public lands for housing when the numbers are real, markets are falling countrywide? Like you look at Vegas right now, their vacancy is huge. And Vegas is always a pretty good indicator, like it's booming, it's busting, it's booming, it's busting, and right now it's busting. It is. And there's a lot of homes there, and you're seeing them go down 10, 20, 30% now, and they're going to keep falling. And I just imagine that's going to happen it's not going to happen in Montana.
In Whitefish too. Look, we got 500 homes for sale suddenly in Whitefish.
Now 230.
No, it's more than that.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, it's up there, and you can't afford a single one of them.
No.
You might get that timeshare for a week on Dakota down there, but that's about the only place you're going to be able to afford. And so, it's not NIMBY or YIMBY when you can't afford nothing.
And the things that are affordable, like a Bay Point or a Ptarmigan condo, come with HOA fees at $500 to $1,000 a month.
But there is an important concept to understand when with supply, which is filtering, which is the idea that, when you have all new housing is always going to sell at a premium because it's new, right?
Yep.
And so it's always going to be not the affordable stuff. But the people move into that, and when they move into that, they exit the older housing stock, and it's that you keep doing it, on the tiers until the lowest level, the oldest, the least desirable housing stock is then competing with themselves for customer base.
And you're seeing that.
And that's where you see the drop.
that in Bozeman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there is a value to build, even if it is stuff that's not affordable. It has an impact on that price.
Well, the things that are moving here.
A whole bunch of good jobs. I mean, don't overlook the jobs.
Well,
I don't mind the construction. I think they're great jobs. I just want us to be able to afford to buy some of them,
Yes.
But there is an important caveat to that, which is that Airbnb short-term rental component, which can come in and grab that and somewhat negate that. And that's why one of the things I propose, we have a cap in Calispell of 2% of our housing stock can be short-term rental.
Right, yeah.
I want to lower that because we currently are at 1%.
You guys have to police that?
We do have police that. Yeah,
It's
we
a
have
nightmare.
We just started
Tough thing
policing
to
it here.
police.
We just started. We voted to last election. We voted to put a position for somebody to
Yes.
track down.
I
all
was
these.
banging the drum on council. I would pull up illegal Airbnbs during meetings and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I'm looking at one that is clearly not in a zone. They're making a killing. It's $450 a night. Business is booming. Like, when are we going to do anything about it?"
We were talking about that too, and somebody's like, "Well, how do you know?" And Toby and I looked at each other like, go on Airbnb. The
Yeah.
fucking address
It's
is
the
right
third
there.
picture is
It's right.
Summers Avenue.
Yeah.
I can see it. Yeah.
The mayor works down
Supposedly
this.
they have a
The guy
computer
is
system
there-
that scans it.
They do,
Yeah.
Right
yeah.
next to my farm. The guy bought that 50 acres. We tried to buy 100 acres next to our farm and couldn't do it fast enough. So the guy bought it, and he put up an Airbnb there. $2,000 a night.
Holy.
Is his name Ryan Zinke?
No, but that's what we're talking about with
Yes.
this. Our clients are different. Kalispell's a little bit different creature, I think, than Whitefish is.
Oh, yeah.
Because the supply is so much greater. And
Cal-
I think your rent is probably half of what rent is.
Kalispell's Phoenix, we're Scottsdale. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's like Columbia Falls is Apache Junction. But Kalispell is the Phoenix. It's the
I
big
heard one
place.
the other
It's-
day that was Whitefish is Manhattan.
Oh,
Columbia
wow.
Falls is Brooklyn, and Kalispell is New Jersey.
Oh,
Just seems mean. Yeah.
It does seem mean.
Well, I'm proud of the fact that when you
A
look
lot
at
of
the
gangsters
housing
in
supply in
Kalispell.
the valley, you look at housing growth over the last 5 years that I've been on council. It's like 80% of the new housing is in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kalispell
Oh, yeah.
is
Yeah.
leading the charge.
we're
in-
doing-
Oh,
we're doing that
big
work.
time. Well, like
We're carrying the water for the
where the
rest of
apartments were
Without
Rig,
question,
the
yeah.
apartments were Rig Ford. It was on the hill there, across from the beautiful Buffalo, where they want to put the
Yeah.
pre-release center. There's another reason the pre-release center is not going there.
Yeah.
Because that real estate's getting a little more expensive. But from what I heard, that place rented out pretty fast. And that was like 4 stories. That development, was that a hard thing for them to get past from you guys?
Which one is
The
it?
one behind Bitney's there, the old Rig Ford on the top of the hill.
Oh yeah, no.
Like I heard that filled up like fucking it was like they pre-released everything there. I heard
I
that.
love that one. I think it's
it's a beautiful development.
No, it's
Yeah.
through. I should mention that I talk about a lot about proving that.
So you were approving that. You were off. Everybody was
Oh,
for
yeah,
approving
we're all
that.
for it.
Okay.
Yeah. And but I work for the Flathead Land Trust, which is my day job, and so I work to preserve open space land and keep it
Hippie.
undeveloped. And people sometimes see a contradiction that I'm doing that at my day job and that I'm going at night
Right, yeah.
voting to approve development. But I really see him actually as.
But they can't call you out and making money off
They
of it. So
if you build in the city, efficiently, then you're actually preserving that open space land because you're not sprawling.
and I think
Yes.
we should do that. I think we absolutely have to do that. I think we've got to rethink a lot. Like I know for the longest time in Whitefish, people just don't want the buildings to be taller than trees. I get it
Right,
in
I
a
understand.
sense where it's a beautiful little place, but again, the NIMBY, that you can't, these people that move here want to,
Yeah.
pull up the drawbridge. That's it, It doesn't happen anywhere. It doesn't, And here we got to think about that green space. I think it should be important to people, I do. And hopefully, I don't have much hope for it. I do see everything being developed in the whole valley. I see no farmland in 20 years. I don't.
Yeah, and you don't need to go super high to achieve that. You don't
It would
need
look cool.
towers and that sort of thing. I mean, if you look at there's cities like people look at a lot of U.S. cities and you have these skyscrapers but their density overall for the metro area is not as great because they have the really dense downtowns, but then their suburbs are all single family.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to like a city like Paris or Barcelona, they don't have any tall skyscrapers, but they have like 5-story, but it's 5-story all over.
You did that to get votes, didn't you? Skyscraper!
Yeah.
Trying to appeal to the bottom denominator there.
But before I forget, I want to talk about, you were talking about mixing the zoning and commercial and residential blend. And it's something that, and I'm sure Ed will agree with me on this as a Wisconsin boy.
Of course I will.
When I go to places, it seems like when I go anywhere, like when I go to Minnesota, when I go to Oregon, when I go to Washington, I go to Idaho, I go to little towns in California, you're walking through neighborhoods and you come across the neighborhood bar.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Just
Convenience store.
Butte.
Yeah, exactly. Like tons of houses, a great little neighborhood, and then there's there's just a little cool sleepy bar, and you walk in, some guy's working, and I just think that's so cool. And every time I go,
Rhonda hate that.
She would hate that. But
She
every
hates
time I
that.
go somewhere, I go, why can't we do that in Montana? And I think Kalispell would be ripe for that.
Oh, Calispell
particularly
would
the
be
east
right
side.
for it. But, going back to Butte, when I was in Helena and I talked to those Butte boys, it was all about what pub you went to.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I belong to this pub. I belong to this pub, And
Yeah.
they all had their own little pubs.
And maybe I'm just a humble public servant with a drinking problem, but it doesn't have to be a bar. It can be a bookstore. It can be a pizzeria. It can be.
I lived in another community where there were nearby. I lived in a neighborhood, and nearby there was a house that some immigrants moved into. They set up a restaurant in the living room.
Illegal
dining room,
immigrants.
and it was like 5 tables.
Yeah.
And they cooked in the kitchen, and they lived upstairs.
Right.
And it was a wonderful restaurant, but it was just an old, single-family house in the neighborhood, and it was a great restaurant in
The
that
oldest-
neighborhood.
Right. We're
The
not
oldest
talking
restaurant-
about a fertilizer plant.
The oldest restaurant in Seattle.
in Whitefish,
Whoa.
we would have our yoga center. We'd have the dispensary.
Hey,
We'd have the pub.
That's fine with
Maybe
me.
a Marcus.
Yeah.
We got a bar, a ski shop, and marijuana right here in one place.
go.
Very
you do
mixed
need
use.
zoning to ensure that if it is in a neighborhood that it's not, they're not open late, and there's
Right.
not odors or noise or
Not
a
a lot of
shop. Yeah, I get
traffic.
it.
It can be done right. The
Right.
bottom line is it can be done right. The oldest restaurant in Seattle is a Japanese restaurant. It's in somebody's house.
Yeah.
And it's fucking awesome. It is great. And I do think, I know for the city of Whitefish, from what I understand now, is they're not going to go ahead, the Heart of Whitefish proposal's not set in stone. It's even though the development board, whatever, they voted for it, but there's definitely backlash.
Dugan killed that.
Oh, probably. I'm sure he's got something to do with it. But Heart of Whitefish hasn't been active since 2006, and we can't
Whatever.
find any members.
That's how the process works. You come into the process wherever you come into the process. Some people come in on day 1.
Yep.
Some
See
people
what you
come
can
in on day 100. I'm going in front of the counselors.
Yeah.
Yep. And
That's
then-
what happened with the Main Street safety plan in Kalispell.
So, okay, let's talk about that real quick, because that was a big issue in Calispell. In my personal opinion, I thought making downtown more attractive, and beautiful, and like Whitefish, like Columbia Falls, like Big Fork. I don't see why Kalispell can't be that way. You have a bypass now. I don't know why you guys voted against the 2 lanes, and apparently though the 2 lanes wasn't going to mean angle parking, which I thought made sense, because if you're going 2 lanes, what are you going to do with the rest of the area if it's 2 lanes? Well, was it for biking lanes then?
Wider sidewalks.
Wider, and that would make sense. I
So
think that'd be
outdoor seating.
Yes, I think that. But here's the caveat to
That
that.
would be some business vitality. I mean,
Well,
people
I would
like
would
to
think
hang
so.
downtown.
And then with the
simple,
trail
doesn't it?
and the new trail by the mall, I think it all makes sense. But here's the problem. Where it'll never fucking work, and they know. There aren't any liquor licenses to be had. So there will be no life down there ever until that changes. I mean, there won't. And that is the thing that I think.
I wouldn't say
don't
I-
drink booze anyways.
What?
Who drinks booze?
You're right. Right.
That's
Kids
a big
don't
problem.
anymore.
I agree, but I disagree that that's a total.
Well, I
that
think
kills the idea. Of
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think it does, because, I mean, you look at it now.
Thank you,
How
Paris.
many places can you drink downtown? Like 4?
The number one reason that people don't enjoy downtown Kalispell is because of the traffic, the noise, and
Yeah, it
just
sucks.
It
is-
sucks.
If you made it more quaint, it would be nicer.
Yeah.
It would be.
And so the idea of this would reduce the traffic, reduce the speeds, and expand the sidewalks so you have more opportunity for things going on outside the shops and stuff. And the concern was that and I get it, right? If you hear going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes
In a bustling.
in a heavy trafficked corridor, people think, oh, it's going to be a disaster. But the thing is, it's been done before in lots of communities, and it works. And the data is clear about it. And so that's one of the things that I really emphasize with that vote is like we have to vote on the data, not people's like, oh, I heard about this and I have an opinion about it.
Right.
Right. I get why people have that opinion, but you have to rely on facts, on data, and what the evidence shows. And the evidence shows this stuff works. It
But
works
was public
for making
input
it better
against it,
downtown.
though, for the most part? Was public input against that
Yeah.
plan? It was.
Yeah.
And why would the public be against it? For other than, like, I mean...
Well, it's change. I mean,
It's
change
changed.
is
You're
scary.
right. When
Yeah.
you're going from 4 to 2, I don't know. It is weird.
And if you're mayor, can I just say, can I get through the entire downtown Kalispell at every goddamn green light? It seems like I can never make it.
No, almost. You get close.
I
Very
can
close.
never get all the way, and it drives me
Well,
nuts.
then there's always an asshole taking a left.
Whoever the city,
That's why you need pullover and shop.
whoever the city
Yes.
planner is, I curse their name.
Well,
every time.
I would love to see wider sidewalks, 2 lanes with a turning lane. Perfect sense, because how many assholes take a fucking left going south where it says no left turn from whatever to whatever? They're
Every
doing it
day.
all the time
All
because
the
they're like,
time.
and they do it right by the police station. Because
the
police aren't looking for that.
No.
Police got a lot more things to worry about than traffic in this alley.
Well, a lot of what we heard too was concern over parking. Oh, it's going to be a disaster. And the thing is, the plan changes nothing about parking.
No, it
The
wouldn't.
parking
You'd
would
have the
stay
exact same
exactly
parking.
the same.
Exactly
So
same.
that's what was so frustrating about it is people, even some members of the council were
Well,
talking
there's
about the parking. It
people.
was-
There's Calispell people for sure that I think they look at Whitefish and say, "Well, Whitefish is so lefty and liberal. Now Columbia Falls is getting that way with their cutesy downtowns. We don't need to be that way. We're a working town. We're this. We're that. I don't see it.
It's hard to roll coal on just
You're
strip.
you need more than
gotta
2
have
lanes of
big
roll call.
spaces.
Yeah.
You gotta
Although
have
I would think
cars
those people would
parked
like
there.
it with outdoor seating and stuff that gives you more opportunity to roll the coal.
we don't want to be Whitefish, and we're not going to be Whitefish. But I think everybody can agree that we want a vibrant downtown.
Yes,
and a nice
of course.
place to be.
I think
when
do.
you go out
It's
and enjoy
always
your
been
downtown.
unattractive to go to. I've been here 25 years. I don't know how many times I've been to Calispell to go out and eat. I've been to Hops once. I've been
Moose's
to the
is
side
pretty
place
great.
once. Moose's, I've been there a
Everybody
bunch,
loves
of course.
There's
Yes.
a lot more business vitality in Calispell than there was 15 years ago.
Oh, there is. Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
stuff
The
is bustling
sushi and
down
hops.
there, and the changes they've made with walkability.
And then
that's good stuff. People want
the
to go
Ritzy.
down there.
The Ritzy. It was
the
called the
Ritz,
Ritz, but
yeah.
they had to change it to the Ritzy. I got a
when they
cease
get
and
sued,
desist.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
shit.
did. But you can get your toes done and drink alcohol at the same time. To me, that sounds way too fucking liberal for Kalispell.
I think you can gamble also.
Oh, really? Oh, my God. Get your feet feeling
True
good.
Montana
Wins-
fashion.
Yeah, that's just. Have you guys been there? Any of you been there? You haven't? No.
My feet
Never been
done?
there.
I
Yeah.
don't have to go. You know where we went the other day?
I
Me
do
and
my,
Ryan.
my own pedicures.
You know where me and Kevin went? Was Great American Patriot Brewing.
How was
Wait,
that?
they do feet?
It was weird.
Yeah.
No, they do not do feet. No, they don't. They do hate. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, people were very nice, but it was definitely a different scene. You know what I mean? Like something we're not really used to. Yeah. The one I had one beer that was decent. Kevin, you liked your beer, I think. No, your beer wasn't the first one. Yeah, yeah. But it's weird in where we live in this society. Like, I mean, at some point you'll probably see Rainbow Brewing opening up, I guess, to go against Great American Patriot Brewing or something. I don't know,
knows?
but again, like Hetero Awesomeness Fest in Boise, you've got people that they're very proud of their redneck ways. And
Beer's good
This,
also.
Hey, look, if the beer's good, that's the number one
If the
thing.
beer's good,
the
it'll
beer's
be.
bad, nobody's going. They don't care if the beer's bad. If
have you
the
been to
beer's
Black
good-
Star? It's packed all the time. And that beer's not that good. It's just not.
Death
Yeah,
Star?
but at least it's
Black Star.
Oh,
the
Black
beer
Star.
may be bad, but at least it's very expensive.
It's true. It's got, yes,
And they
exactly.
come, I mean, remember when it used to be called the Death Star? You go in there and you have 3
Yes.
of them, and
You were
like,
dead.
oh my
Nine
The
God.
next day were horrible.
$9
for a
an
beer.
IPA? Did we
Dude.
lose a war that I wasn't aware of?
Well, remember when breweries were the cheapest place to get beer?
$9?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Breweries
That's
are
like
some,
more than eggs.
That's right.
more than my wings.
These are wing prices. that we're
Yeah,
talking about
but
here.
remember, breweries used to be the cheap place to get beer because it's the source.
Yes.
You're not shipping. You're not
They
doing a
make it
fucking thing.
right
You're going from the
there.
tank to your line. And like downtown, when it was the first Black Star, Great Northern, it was like $2.50, $3 a beer and stuff. And Bonsai started the trend of fuck it, we're just charging $6 a pint or $6 for 12 ounces, even, you know. And we would sell Bonsai beer. And then we couldn't sell it anymore because I was selling it cheaper than he was. I'm like, bro, how much do you need to make? I mean, really, is it really
I tell
because
these
it's whitefish?
I tell all these 20-year-olds that come to the farm, it's like, look, you know that growler that you think is so cool costs $4 more than the 6-pack.
Yeah,
right. It's more. That's why we don't sell growlers anymore. It's not even a thing. We have them, but people stopped buying them a couple years ago because everybody's canning them, and cans are a little more convenient, you know.
They are.
I like this beer talk thing, you know.
they
But
are.
but beer. Okay, there's so many reasons Montana beer has gotten more expensive. I mean, when we first opened this in 2016, we were buying a keg of beer for about $125, $135. That's what every keg costs. Now they're upwards of $200 or more, you know. But everybody's wages have gone up. Everybody's licenses have
like
gone up.
old Milwaukee.
No, it's not.
That
No,
was
we're in
40
a
and
different,
50, right?
we're in a different world. No, a Pabst is Pabst is like $130.
Well, and to make
There was $19.99 when I was in high school in Milwaukee. We could buy a half barrel Pabst
Yeah.
in high school. There was no age.
and to make matters worse, young people are drinking less.
Way less.
Way less?
They have a pussy problem.
Yeah,
they
way
are
less.
pussies, and they don't understand how to have fun.
So Ryan,
Well,
where
ecstasy's kind of fun, I guess.
where can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have events scheduled?
thanks
or
for asking.
How
Yeah.
do people donate? If they want to donate to your campaign, where do they find you?
Yeah, thank you. It's Hunter for Calispell. That's number4.com, and you can.
That's gotta
out
help.
about
People
me
love
and,
hunters.
donate on there, and
You just had a kickoff event. Do you have any other events scheduled?
nothing scheduled yet, but certainly we'll make it now. I have a Facebook page, kind of a political page, Ryan Hunter, Calispell City Councilor, and I'll make announcements there.
I was at your event at your house. I thought that was pretty cool. Tell me about your house. It's on the National Historic Register of Places.
Well, all of kind of downtown Kalispell is within the historic area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so when
You get a plaque in front of your house.
yeah, you can do that through the state. Like if you move into
Oh.
the area, you can call the
It
state.
was built
and
by
they'll-
a Civil War guy for his brother or something, or
Yeah, it was built in 1901.
wow, man,
It's,
that's
old
crazy.
house, yeah.
That is super
But
cool.
you're in this race to win, it sounds like. I mean, you got the campaign going. The people I talked to
Right.
said, look, this is the winner. This is the guy you got to back if you want to be part of the mayor's team.
I will admit, I looked at the website. I said, "This guy's pretty liberal. Not
I
only
don't
will
know.
he lose, they're gonna tar and
Transportation.
feather him."
Yeah.
But
It
I'd
is
be-
a nonpartisan race. I am
happy to be wrong.
neither or.
I'm happy to be wrong.
No,
The
that's
thing that I
that's
think wins elections is hard work.
I agree.
You
with
know,
you.
I think people really appreciate that hard work. They might not align with you 100%, but boy, if you're a hard worker, they
Yep.
know that you're working for them. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I plan to do the hard work. I always have. And
well, and I would say being I watch your council meetings, and I watch everything that goes on, and you are somebody that appears to me that has done a lot of work for people, for sure, where you've looked at the important issues, you've been right on a lot of issues, and I think that should matter, and that's something I think maybe you should campaign on or be very proud of, that there are decisions that city has made that you've been on the right side of the decision, win or lose, you've been on the right side, probably more often than not, and I think that is an important thing, and I think people need to look at leadership through that lens instead of just like, I want Brad Abel.
Yep. I would agree with that.
And
You know.
you probably can't buy a $9 beer in Kalispell.
No.
You probably anybody in Kalispell sell
Right.
$9 beers?
I don't.
I doubt it, You know what's really good in Kalispell is the Grinnell restaurant.
I heard that's
By
good.
Kobe Steakhouse.
Yeah.
It's really good. We're not advertising for them, but it's really good. It's like a good fine dining experience in a strip mall.
If you want the best Mexican in
La
the valley,
Casita, you better say that.
the one on corner of 2 and
by the
Meridian.
fairgrounds. La Casita. That is
incredible.
Dude, fat little Mexican lady making homemade fucking shells. Are you kidding? In Montana? It's
delicious.
Oh, it is incredible. And she said I can come in and buy them. If I come in there at 2:45, I can buy everything she's made that day.
Wait,
I keep planning.
Plug this place a little bit more. Where is it?
You haven't eaten there?
I don't think I
Yeah,
have.
La Casita.
I
It's
leave town.
You're right, you don't. It's a gas station by the fairgrounds.
It's near the fairgrounds.
On that corner. Rappin' Hole had a place. There's been restaurants there for years, but none of them ever made it. This place is killing it. They're only open like 5 days a week or 4 for like 4 hours. Like that part sucks, you know. But what I do is like I've eaten there a bunch, so now I kind of cook. I'll cook my own burrito. Like I don't get the shell, but I'll cook how they do. You know, the pico and the meat. I love what they do. They do a good job, and you know that's one great thing about Growth is the food. We have a Himalayan restaurant.
Oh,
what?
Himalayan's my favorite.
Was that probably you bringing that here?
I don't know.
Commie leftist. But no, it is the growth. And that's the thing that I think people need to see growth as a positive and a good thing instead of this anti-growth, because it's just not feasible to be anti-growth. I would love it if Whitefish looked like it did when I moved here. I would love a junkyard downtown with a tire store and shit everywhere. Like, it didn't bother me at all, you know? But progress and change and growth can be a good thing, and you just got to make it that good thing. And you start by hiring good leaders.
To quote Big Tom Callahan from Tommy Boy, in the auto parts business, you're either growing or you're dying. There ain't no third direction.
That's right. You're making it better or you're making it worse. That's all there is to it. Thanks a lot, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you.
We
Thank you,
can't wait to
Appreciate
see what happens this
Everyone
fall.
check him out. Check him out.
Hunterforcalispell.org?
Com.
.com. Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Ryan.
Capitalist here.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Mike.
that's
Thank
right.
you, Kevin. Thanks, Paris.